Good morning. My name is Dr. Robert Williams. I'm the General Secretary for the General Commission on Archives and History of the United Methodist Church. We're standing in front of the Methodist Archives and Library Center on the campus of Drew University in Madison, New Jersey. The building was opened in 1982, bringing together the considerable collections in Methodism that Drew University had already collected since its founding in 1867, and what the General Commission was expected to collect of United Methodist materials when we were founded in 1968. As we begin to walk to the door, you'll see that it's a 4-story building. Well, you can only see that it's 2 stories above grade because 2 stories are below grade, which you'll be seeing in a little while as we take a tour of the facility where the Methodist archives are stored in a 2-story concrete vault. The ground floor is the public space, a reading room, an exhibit area, and offices. And then the second floor is the print and library collection of both the General Commission and the collection of Drew University. So we welcome you, and Dr. Dale Patterson, our archivist, and I look forward to giving you a quick tour of this marvelous building, state-of-the-art for archives and library. As we come into the exhibit area, one of the things you would notice, it's not a large exhibit. We're not primarily a museum. We're primarily a depository for researchers. Right now, the exhibit that we have out has been developed by the Drew library staff and highlights the newspaper of Drew University. But we just finished an exhibit a few weeks ago highlighting letters that we had received from the descendant of Bishop Gilbert Haven. Bishop Haven was a Methodist bishop from 1872 to 1880, and in this collection of over 1,000 letters, there were letters from Ulysses S. Grant, Frederick Douglass, William Lloyd Garrison, and others. We were excited about that type of collection, and it's a good illustration of the type of things that we collect, all the way from agency records of our church bodies to exciting collections of 19th century figures. Dr. Chris Anderson, the Methodist librarian for Drew University, walked in as we started this tour because it speaks to the relationship that the General Commission has with Drew University. It's a partnership of 2 bodies. We're a church body and are accountable to the life of the United Methodist Church, but Drew University owns the building and made this possible that we could come and cover our share of library services and our share of the use of the building. But Dr. Anderson really serves as a staff for us as well, as the library staff takes care of the cataloging and the processing of all books that we're expected to collect across our work. When researchers come here, they have the benefit of everything that Drew has collected, plus everything that we have collected, and it's all in one place. So it really becomes almost a seamless experience for a researcher. I think it can really serve as a model where an educational institution and a church agency can be in one building in a harmonious relationship.
I agree.
And if that collection was ever separated, then both collections would really be impoverished from that. Behind me is a reading room where researchers come to use the materials. Over the course of the year, as many as 30 researchers will spend 1 to 3 days here and will come from all over the world. We also get about 1,000 research requests a year that our reference archivists and our other archivists work on. But where researchers come from, in addition from throughout the United States, would be we've had researchers from Norway, Germany, we've had film crews from Korea and Japan, because this really is the richest collection on global Methodism that we know of anywhere in the world. So as we come into the building, it's attractive space for small exhibits and for researchers to get the materials brought to them and with proper security, they work here in the reference reading room.
We're in the reading room of the Archive Center this morning, and as you can see, we have here the frequently used books and publications that most of our researchers need quick access to. The majority of the collection, which we'll see when we go upstairs, is housed in a safe and secure area, and so this actually saves many of our researchers time. And the reading room is the heart and the soul of the Archive Center. It's where the researchers come, they make the request for their material here, and then they receive the material and look at it here. We don't check anything out. Nothing gets sent out on interlibrary loan. All the work happens here. We have a variety of researchers that make use of this place. We could start with genealogists and people just looking for relatives who maybe were missionaries or who were pastors, make use of the reading room. Students here at the university, part of their coursework is to actually come to the archives and make use of the material here in several of their courses. And then we have graduate students, both here on campus and around the world, will come here and make use of the material. Sometimes they're making use of it for church history, religious history. Sometimes it's a surprising amount of material that they use. We just had a young woman from Germany last year, from the equivalent of the German equivalent of MIT, and she was doing the history of architecture. And she came here and did 2 chapters of her dissertation on skyscraper churches of the 1920s. Wouldn't have thought about that for architectural history. But that's the great thing about archives. We never know what questions we'll be able to answer. In addition to that, we also have senior scholars who are doing major research and will be writing major books who actually come here and make use of the material. So the great thing about this reading room, it's an entire span from what we would call the research world, from the very scholarly to just as intensely interested individual discovering information on their aunt or their uncle or their grandmother, perhaps, who was a missionary. 19th century letters, which are drawing out. And originally these were all folded very tight. And so if we had tried to unfold them, they would have snapped.
Yeah, dust.
So we put them in a humidifier. We have a little homemade humidifier that just makes them just damp enough so that we can unfold them. And then we put them in this sort of sandwich. So underneath here, there's one of these, there's some towels, and then there is, let me just set that up a little bit. See, we got the documents right under there. And we let them dry, and that gets them back to the original flat state. And then they're ready for further processing, placing in special file folders, such as this. See, originally, it had been left in its original envelope. So this is from like the 1880s. Paper's in good shape. It's in excellent shape, actually. And so this way, it looks very messy. But once we're done, we're ready to put it in a special folder, and then we'll store it in these archival boxes that we have here. One of the other tasks is all the file folders that we do get entered into our database. And we're able to track where every one of these file folders are in the archives. In addition to taking care of physical records like those letters and other physical paper documents that we get, we also have to take care of digital documents. So this is one of our scanning stations. It's designed for both photographs or documents, and then we can also convert microfilm to a digital format as well. We have reel-to-reel tapes. It's quite fun. We have to tell many of our students what a reel-to-reel tape player is. We have cassette plate tapes, and we even have phonograph records. And all of these we'll run through a digitization process, turning them into WAV files for more permanent storage at this point in time. And also makes it easier to share with our patrons, or if we want to put them up on our website.
We're fortunate in this building to have very lovely meeting space, a small conference room, which you're seeing at this time, because it houses a lot of the Methodistica and Wesleyana collection that was compiled in the 1920s and 30s by a president of Drew, Ezra Squire Tipple. So whenever a group comes in and they meet in this room, they have a whole wall of John Wesley busts looking over their shoulder, making sure that they do their work very well. It also includes a death mask, a plaster form that was done on John Wesley's face within hours after his death in 1791. Which was a common practice in those days. Not a common practice today, thank goodness, but it does give a wonderful artifact that goes right back to the time of John Wesley.
At some point in time, this will be split into 2 floors and hold archival material. Right now, around the walls, as it were, are supplies. So these are all empty boxes that we will be placing material in at some point in the future. And for our larger collections, and some of our collections are as large as 230 cubic feet. That's essentially the height of a 23-story building. For some of those collections, when we're working on them, we can spread them out over this open floor now. What we have here is it's called a book drive, and it's our high-speed book scanner. And it's very, very simple. You have 2 cameras, and the cradle, which holds the book, is in the same plane. So one of the problems, if you've ever had to photocopy a book on a regular flatbed photocopier, you get a kind of a gutter shading. Because of the 2 cameras, we get perfectly smooth, flat images. No gutters, no shadings. And this is a fast enough process that our student can do about 400 pages an hour. In this case, we're scanning an early 19th century series of books, which we will end up placing on our website when we're done. And it's just really straightforward. The book is there, you open it up, you turn a page, you close it, and there's a button right here you would click, and the 2 cameras fire off, take a page, and the images are then downloaded to a computer. From this room, we'll go into the archival space where the shelves are, and you'll get a sense of what we have about 9,000 cubic feet of material. So that's almost a stack of paper, almost 2 miles high. And this is what this looks like. These shelves go all the way to the ceiling. We've got a special floor which allows the air to circulate. So we have temperature and humidity control. Down here we keep it a relatively constant at 68 degrees and roughly 48% humidity, which is a good temperature and humidity for records. And this is the end result of how our students have helped us out. Anywhere you see a box with a label, here or say down there at the end of the aisle, those are finished. It means everything is done. There's a description of this collection on the internet, and here are the file folders, which lists the title of the files and some other information that helps us replace them where they belong. Researchers can come in and request these files, and because we have them in our computer and our database, we're able to come down and, in most cases, fill their research request. That is, get the files they want to see in 10 to 15 minutes. And they will then have that material, and they're able to read it, make use of it, and then we can bring it back down and keep it safe here in the archives. And so, for example, so here's the handwritten minutes of what was our missionary society. Photograph albums. These are all contained photograph albums shot between 1900 and the late 1920s. And so we have almost 250,000 of images just down this one row. This is one of the rows where we keep our General Board of Global Ministries, the board that deals with global issues of denomination.
We're now on the second floor of the building. So we've been on the ground floor, the 2 stories below grade, and now we're on the second floor, which houses the print collection, which is essentially a library. So it would include serials, periodicals, many of them from the 19th century, conference journals of every annual conference in the United States for every year, plus many of the conference journals for those conferences outside the United States. This floor has just been redone, which now has a proper fire suppression system and all the proper security, as well as to go with what is known as compact shelving. Used to be that the shelves had to have space between each one for a person to walk and retrieve the books. But now with this, it has doubled the space for volumes, and all we have to do is turn a crank and we open up the space that's needed and find the books. Somewhere between 40 and 42,000 volumes on world Methodism. We have some AME Zion, and other of the churches that are within the Wesleyan family in the collection as well. This doesn't make for real exciting photography, but it does make for real exciting space utilization to have all of this available at the turn of a crank. So this floor doesn't house the archival material. It houses microfilm, microfiche, books, periodicals, and things of that nature.
The library has one of the largest collections of Wesley material, both print and manuscript. This is one of his sermons on several occasions. And note that the date is 1788. So this is from Wesley's lifetime.
Well, as we hold the AME Zion Quarterly Review, edited by Dr. William McKenith, and the Star of Zion, it speaks to the breadth of the collections here, that we are concerned, and Drew University is concerned, about collecting across the Wesleyan family, and especially collecting across Pan-Methodism. So we find it very important to have all of these periodicals that are behind us, and certainly for the purposes of this tour, to highlight these 2 periodicals that come in here. But as we come to the conclusion of the tour, I think it's really not so much the facilities as such. They are wonderful. We love working in them. We love making these available. But it's really the stories of faith that they embody. The stories of faith of those who have gone before us, sometimes with blemishes. It's not a perfect historical record, but to be able to call them forth for the inspiration and the information that we need to live faithfully today. We call ourselves that we're about the ministry of memory. It is a ministry. It's more than paper. It is memory that calls forth the best out of the past and encourages us to live faithfully as we move into the future. So brick and mortar gets turned into real life, turns into disciples of Jesus Christ, turns into ministry and mission in the world today. So we're delighted to give this brief tour of what we try to do to make sure that these stories have a future. Thank you very much.